Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast, the podcast that is passing wisdom to the next generation of athletes, coaches, and parents to transform leaders on and off the court. And welcome to our Friday edition of the show, Coach's Corner, where I, Coach Furtado, I share what I am learning during my daily weeks as a coach, and also the questions I'm getting asked by parents as well. And so this actually comes in directly from a parent, a question that I was reached out to about, and I'll give a little bit more context on the situation. So essentially I had a parent kind of, a little bit stressed, texting me, reaching out to me and expressing, that he's putting a lot of time and effort into his son's development in basketball, and he's not seeing the results, and he's seeing maybe a little bit of regression in the last couple of months. So I got an opportunity to talk to him actually in person, which is always great to, have that conversation in person and, hear what is going on. And so, obviously he sounds like he's, putting in a ton of time. There's the early mornings on the Saturdays, like it's pretty much every day, whether it's basketball or some other sports. And he's been, playing for a while, has the fundamental skills to, be an effective player on the court. And he's noticing, essentially, what you'll notice is like kids becoming timid. And so I started asking some questions, like what's going on? Has there been like a leap in competitive play? And so one of the things that he brought up was, a couple of months ago, he's in some recreation league, did well in the recreation league. And then there's some sort of all-stars, and I don't know all the details on it, but essentially he's playing higher level of competition, and him and his team just got smacked the whole season, whether it was a short season or long season. Don't know whether I quite got it or not. And I kind of asked him like, hey, like what has his confidence been like since then? And, he's starting to think like, like maybe it has, kind of dwindled a little bit. Like, they're playing, so in basketball specifically, and probably can apply to all sports. And I've noticed this with my little 10U club team, is that when you kind of advance levels, the pressure, like defense and like, the way people play, the style of play is just, it's a little bit more physical, right? And so that's like a big leap, a big jump. And so the 10U club team that I'm coaching is kind of transitioning and going into that. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on in practices is, being able to handle that. But it's going to be a learning process. They're not going to like immediately go from dominating the YMCA, playing a slower pace of the game, to going and playing and competing against top level competition in that age bracket of like, it's just a speed higher, right? It's an adjustment period, just like when we start new jobs, just like when we, begin new activities, whether, maybe you're picking up snowboarding for the first time, right? You know how to do it, but if you go from, I don't know, the blue level where it's a little bit flatter of a mountain to like the black diamond and straight down, it's going to be a learning curve. And that's what I really want to talk about is patience, right? Patience in the development process. And, I think a couple of good rules of thumb is, especially for younger athletes, it's going to take longer to get the base, the foundation. And, kind of depends on what age your athlete is when you're listening to this. But I really like to say it takes about 6 months of consistent practice to really truly see like significant results. You can start seeing results in 2 to 3 months, like slight results. And it's always going to vary based on, natural talent already, what physical skills, like as far as motor skills go, because motor skills actually are a lot of the foundation of a lot of the movements. And so that's one of the things that I'm always, looking to work on, especially with younger athletes, right? Are they able to, right? If they're having trouble playing defense, a lot of times that's a motor skill. They're not able to, kind of do that lateral quickness and lateral movement that is required to be a great defender, right? Same thing with ball handling, right? Like shoulder strength and just muscle memory of the ball. And so a lot of different things. And my thing is it's a double-edged sword, right? Because, let's say you've invested a ton of money, a ton of time into a certain program, and you've been there for a year, even if it's Bridging Impact Basketball, and you're not seeing, significant results, right? Significant results is not Curry, LeBron James, but confidence in how they're playing and significant development and, kind of, progress, right? Significant progress, not in comparison to others, but progress within like they're better than themselves in a year. If they're not better in a year, you need to find a different program, or maybe it's a different sport. But um, if they're not progressing like over year, then that is definitely an issue, because I don't want to sit here and say, hey, be patient, and then like have never get results, right? It's a double-edged sword. So when do we start to know? You just have to be patient, right? You have to be patient for at least 3 to 6 months, and you have to. And I think the other thing, right, that I see parents doing, and actually people that aren't parents do it as well, but just comparing, there's a ton of, great, kid athletes that are on Instagram that have 100,000 following, and, have all these handles, and are, great, at the young age of 6 or 8 or 9 or 10. And, they got the videos, and, you can see the parents, the trainers, they're so skilled at such a young age. And it's just patience, like you got to love your kid for who they are, and how they play. And I know for a fact that my parents, if they could, they would they'd go back in time, and they'd watch me strike out time after time. They'd watch me miss shot after shot, if that means they got to have that time back to watch me play sports and be in their house. And so just enjoy that process. It's not a rush. It's not a rush to there is no finish line with sports. And you know what? The frank, honest truth is that most people will not play collegiate sports. Most people will definitely not play professional sports. And it has to be somewhat of a choice for your athlete. And it kind of depends, and I'll kind of break it down right now. So in the elementary age, it should be fun. It should be all about development. It should not be about winning. It should be all about development. Now, can you strive to win? Is winning a great motivator and tool? Absolutely. I'm not saying there should be no scoreboard, but it should be the number one priority should be development, skill development, right? Social, emotional development, ability to work with a teammate, right? That's the number one thing in elementary. Now we start shifting to middle school. Now we start learning how to train, right? We start learning a little bit more advanced fundamentals, but still mostly fundamentals. And we start to, learn more about competition and learning certain tactics. It should be more competitive. I do believe middle school is the age that people should start playing club basketball, not necessarily before that, even though I technically coach kids that are before that, which is kind of funny enough that that's kind of my beliefs. And we can kind of go on that later on, another topic. And then obviously in high school, it's time to make a decision. It's time to make a decision whether you really want, and I would even argue maybe even 8th grade, whether you really want to commit to a sport. Because what it requires now, at least in, a big city where I am, if you want to go to a public high school or some of these private high schools that are really talented, you have to dedicate. You have to be committed. And I think you have to be committed at a younger age than when I had to be committed. I think I've really started the commitment later on, which might have affected my, like I played 2 sports, which meant, the one I came more naturally to me, baseball, I did really well. I had a great high school career in, and the one that I had to work my butt off, because I wasn't playing AAU ball in the spring because of baseball. Like maybe that's, one of the reasons I didn't get as much play time, my junior or at least my senior season on varsity. But that's, again, another topic for another day. And I would say actually that a lot of my time that I spent training in basketball has actually transitioned into when I play pickup basketball now, which, I know when you're investing quite a bit of money, you want it to, show now, but sometimes those investments, they come in later on in life, like through all the life skills and the sheer will and determination and persistence that I learned through basketball training now, helping me build out the Bridging Impact podcast, Bridging Impact Basketball. So I just want to leave you there with that, but really just love your kid, have realistic expectations, and know that they're probably not going to be Curry, but if they are really committed, then support them in every way you can, challenge them in certain ways, find coaches that challenge them, and make sure that they're finding a good coach, good program that's a good fit, that's going to continue to help them develop, because their development's number one, right? And I'm not talking just basketball development. Bridging Impact's about leadership development. It's about social, emotional development. It's really about understanding yourself, having that self-awareness of who am I, right? Who am I in this world? Who am I on this team? How can I make an impact on this team? And like really helping them start to cultivate that awareness. Like that is what it's really about. And so just making sure that, you you're doing that and doing your best and supporting your athlete, that's all you can ask for, and being patient. It's not linear. It's going to be, it's the same thing as coaching, right? One day I'm like, oh man, I'm a great coach. I'm doing everything great. I'm a great entrepreneur. Everything's going well. And then something happens and, you're like, ah, man, as a coach, I still have so much more to learn. And I think it's really about being a lifelong learner. And that's what we really want to help, teach our young athletes. So, if they get to that high school level and they really want to commit to a sport, again, it's got to be their choice. And, unless they have some God-given talent and they can use that God-given talent to get them a free education, then that's probably a little bit of a different story and a conversation. But really just focusing on the process, right? And it's so cliche, but really just focus on that development. And it's not going to be linear. There are going to be some seasons where you're like I'll share, this will be my last little bit before I wrap up here, is my freshman year I started on varsity. Well, guess what? My sophomore year, I thought I was hot shit, and I honestly I sat the bench towards the end of the year on our playoff run because I just wasn't hitting, and that's life, But I ended up having great junior and senior seasons for baseball, so it's not linear. Have drop the expectations, but always encourage and make sure that the program is doing a great job developing their basketball skills, their leadership skills, and their life skills, because that's what is most important, because we want to transform leaders on and off the court. So, if you got something out of this, you think this would be a great episode to share with a friend, please do go leave us a review of 5-star on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's the best way for us to grow. I'm really excited because the podcast has grown quite a bit recently, and we got some sponsorships and working. So I really appreciate you all for taking time out of your day to listen to this. I really hope that I can provide value. If you ever want to reach out and talk a little bit more about some of these different things, whether we're just messaging back and forth or we hop on a call, that's what I'm here for, and I'm here to be a resource. So thank you all so much. Hope you have a wonderful day, evening, rest of your morning, whenever you're listening to this. Coach Furtado out.